Tom, are you okay?
I lost her.
Her?
She was going to be this epic, trilogy-worthy character. I was going to be the hottest writer in Hollywood. But I can't get past Act 1!
You need some writers group therapy. Hello and welcome to Writers Group Therapy.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Roshni. We're writers helping writers. Are you ready for your session? The doctors are in.
In today's session, we're talking with the talented team behind the web series Transplants. It's the story of two New Yorkers who moved to Los Angeles. You can find it online at youtube.com/transplantsweb.
So we have not one, not two, but three special guests with us today. Can you believe it? Woo!
It's a mega podcast.
Yes. So we have the creative team of the show Transplants, Trip Langley.
Hello.
Oh. You can say hi if you want.
I was so enthralled with your introduction.
Brittney, Bertier, and Sara Baum.
Hi.
So there's a lot of you doing a lot of work on this one show. So I thought I'd just let you guys talk about what you do. And okay, let's start with what is Transplants?
Well, we're all like, who's gonna talk first?
Well, why don't we start with like where it began?
Okay.
Because essentially, Brittney and I both are. We were people who were living in New York. We were actors in New York, and then we both moved to LA. And we were having yogurt one night in Silver Lake, and I was just like, "Hey, so I have this idea for something I think could be funny about, just what it's like to move to LA from New York, because it was like a shared experience with us." And she just thought it sounded like a great idea. And so we took it to Sara, who we had worked with on a project before. And she loved it. And so it was just kind of like, it became like this melting pot of ideas and creativity. And then we turned it into a web series.
Wow. And you guys are on season 2 right now, right?
Yes.
And this is a comedy, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes. Hopefully.
Well,
sounds real confident there, yay.
Season 1 is very, I call it sketch comedy like when I explain it to people, because each episode deals with a different issue of New Yorkers being new to LA, like what to eat, how to get to the beach, how to get around, brunch, stuff like that. And then season 2, we fleshed it out a lot more. We were hearing back from viewers that they wanted to know more about Trey and more about them as characters rather than the situations they were put in. So season 2 actually is a lot more long form. We have a whole arc from beginning to end. We really tell a story this time around, which is kind of cool.
That's
and
awesome.
we wrote scripts for season 2, which season 1 was all improv. Yeah. Which made because Sara is kind of like the one-stop shop for everything crew. And she was also the editor, not just the director and the writer. And so the editing process for season 1 was very interesting because every take almost was completely different.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, who does what for the show?
So everyone does everything? Let's go person by person. Let's start with Sara.
Sara.
So I write, direct, shoot it, and edit it.
And you sound a lot too.
And sound. We do a lot. Brittney, you want to go?
And I, co-creator, and for season 2, Trip and I co-wrote some episodes, so we write it, act in it. I supervise the music along with a producer, and I do the social media.
And I am co-creator now as of season 2, co-writer, which is super, super scary. And then also, both of our characters have their own social media page. And then, of course, we all, share a password to the social media. But Brittney, really seems to have a good handle on that. So I always kind of run anything social media by her first. So we're, again, we all kind of are involved in all parts of the process. Like we've all been a part of, casting, writing. We all bring ideas to the table, and then we just kind of have to, defer to each other. It's kind of like a committee process, really, every decision that we make.
Wow. So you guys really are a creative team in every sense of the word. How do you guys make it work without stepping on toes or, but you still get things done with so many people putting their hands in?
I think that having three people is helpful because it's like there's always a tiebreaker person,
That's a good point.
And I mean, I know that's how I feel. Sometimes, like, I will have an opinion, and one of the ladies will have an opinion, and then I just kind of wait for the other person to speak up because, in my mind, if they both feel strongly in one direction and I feel, the opposite, well, it's two versus one, and so it just kind of makes decision making more easy that way.
Yeah, that is true. That's definitely true. But also, I think that because I've worked with friends before back in New York, actually, on creating a web series. There were four of us, and it did not run so smoothly. So I think it also has to do with the personalities. And Sarah, I would say, is sort of the one who she keeps me calm whenever I'm getting worked up about anything. She's so understanding and calm, and so is Trip, really. I'm probably the highest strung. So having two partners who I really respect, who just are really collaborative, make a huge difference. I think that it's just the way the personalities work together is sort of gold.
I mean, I would actually be interested to hear Sarah talk about it, just because Brittney and I, come from the acting world primarily, and Sarah's kind of, is having to work with two actors who are now trying to juggle all these responsibilities that we've never had to do before. So, Sarah, tell us how wonderful we are.
Yeah. Use lots of adjectives.
I think I feel like it's been a big learning curve. Like season 1, we really just all wanted to create something together. So I think we were all just so happy to be working together and getting to take creative leads on a project we cared about. Just made it easy to work together because we all loved what we were doing. And season 2, that just kind of carried us through. I mean, I think there's points where we step on each other's toes, but we've never gotten into a fight or anything even remotely close to it. I feel like we're all kind of on the same wavelength with the project, and we all just want what's best for the project, which kind of makes working together pretty easy.
What's the hardest thing about working together and being not in the same location sometimes?
Yeah, definitely schedules. Yeah.
Schedules.
That's hard.
I think schedules, but also just like
Planning.
the other things going on in our lives. Like, stuff comes up and we have to like push stuff last minute. That's indie filmmaking.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that season 2 we did a whole lot better than season 1, because season 1 I kept leaving town for gigs. Sarah left town to write on the East Coast. Trip is like always traveling. So it took us like, I want to say 2 years to finish it. And season 2 we did a hell of a lot quicker. We just set aside chunks of time. Like once I think we did a full week and just shot all week.
And we scheduled it like really far out in advance, and built in backup days in case something went wrong. Which actually we had to end up using those backup days because something did go wrong. And so
my car broke down.
Yes, I wasn't gonna throw you under the bus for this.
It's okay, good old Pepe.
But we planned better for season 2, so
yeah, we learned a lot.
We just we get better as it goes.
That's a good question. The planning of the production process, how did you write it and keep in mind things like timing and budget so that you could actually pull this off?
We kind of were like, what's the smallest amount of time we need to get this done? Okay, let's add 1 day.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because we have the benefit, I guess, of like when we're writing the show, like we know that we're the ones who are going to be performing it, editing it, getting the locations, casting if we put extra characters in the episode, and I know that for me, especially with the 2 episodes that Brittney and I wrote together, it was really interesting being able to write with the person you're going to be performing with, because you could kind of almost have like a dry rehearsal like during the writing process.
True.
Um, so that's what I think of when I think about writing. Keeping in mind that we're also going to be in charge of everything else. Sarah, what would you add to this topic?
I mean, I think a lot of people's mistake, and whenever they look at what we've done and they think it's so difficult, is they're writing without thinking of how to do it. And I think everything we write and everything we create, we work with what we already have. We don't write about Bree learning to ride a horse through Griffith Park because we don't have a horse and we can't afford those permits. So we write with locations we have access to, props we can get, and people we already know and love. So just writing to your
Yeah.
scale, make it.
We pretty much cast before we write.
So you have people in mind to play the characters in your...
Yeah.
Yes, and we usually, I think with the exception of our biggest episode, which Sarah did write first and then we cast, with Trip and I's, we made sure people were interested before we even wrote for them, because with somebody specific in mind, that changes how you write,
Yeah, that's true.
Made it easier.
So what would be the biggest things you've learned after completing season 1 going into season 2? Like you were saying, make sure the person's available if you're going to write for them. Any other lessons that you've learned as producers, as writers, as actors, obviously?
Write a script.
Oh gosh, absolutely. Not really just for us, but for Sarah having to edit it. Her process took so long because we were doing so many different things, and not just but like in a bad way, but sometimes she would have like a lot of good options, but then she then had to determine what was the story that was best to tell. And so we knew that writing scripts would just make our jobs easier because we could just focus on on what was there instead of trying to come up with stuff. And then we knew that would make the editing process for her so much easier.
And we still did an improv take so that we could have something different, because it was so different going from full improv to full scripted. So we wanted to add some of that sort of spontaneity back in, and we still did that. But that was probably the biggest thing we learned. And then I think the second biggest thing we learned, I don't know what you think, Trip, but having the freedom to totally like flesh out our characters more, like knowing that people wanted to see that and knowing what people wanted, just sort of relying on the story and playing into that. I feel like we learned how to do a show, and then now we're learning how to expand the world.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't know if this is like a lesson necessarily, but I mean, just like learning that there were people who were interested and like believed in what we were doing was, because before it was just, like the three of us like working together, we thought this idea was funny. And we were like, regardless of if anybody actually watches this, like we're going to enjoy ourselves with each other and create something. But then, we have like our faithful little fan base on YouTube, always watching and commenting, and we ended up, due to Brittney's work with the social media stuff, getting an online distribution deal.
Amazing! Congrats.
Thank you.
Where online can people find it?
It's on the On channel. Currently, season 1 is on the On channel, and we will be releasing season 2 once a week on YouTube, but you will be able to binge it on the On channel the day that we release it in November.
Great. We'll put the links in the notes for that.
Thank you.
And if people want to follow all of you individually and or your characters, what are the handles for those?
So Transplants, we are at Transplants web series. And that's on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Transplants Web, because you can't do the long one for some reason. And my character is at Bree Benson, and I'm at Brittney Bertier. 2 T's, N-E-Y. Trip, you want to tell them?
Yes. For my character Trey, it's on Instagram. It's at Trey Langdon, and then my Instagram is Trip Langley, and Trip Langley covers all the social medias. So just do at Trip Langley into anything, and if I'm on it, you will find me.
MySpace?
Yes. Probably.
And Sarah, how about for you?
I'm just at Sara Baum, but you could probably find me through Transplants.
Yeah, I tag them quite
That's
a bit. You can find us
Awesome.
all really from the Transplants.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to
Thank
chat
you
with
for having
us. And we
us.
can't wait to see the rest of season 2.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you guys for joining us today. So if you want to catch them, definitely check out Transplants on YouTube. And if you like what you hear, subscribe and share with your friends. You can find us at writersgrouptherapy.com or on Twitter at WGTherapy. We'll see you next week.